Hey everybody, I'm back with another video. This time this is about spiritual hygiene. I really wanted to go over this video and talk about how important it is to make sure you have, kind of a way of going about boosting your energy level and making sure that, certain things outside of yourself are not, causing a certain type of influence, that can kind of keep you from being productive or carrying out certain tasks, throughout your day-to-day life. And there's certain ways how you can kind of check up on that. There's certain processes and methods, and usually it takes a lot of understanding of what it means to be spiritual, understanding energies and frequencies, what they are, how to know what level they are, how they affect you, as well as understand what religion is and what it means to be religious, and understand rituals. Okay. I'm going to explain these things in a very detailed, thorough context to where it's more easier for you guys to like understand without, any type of, um, like the politics or certain things like that. This is not about that. Okay. This is about taking, these words here and applying it within its original context, within the divine wisdom, you know, of um of what I was able to gain, throughout my understanding of life and coming to know certain things, by experience and you know, just having that, I guess, the witnessing things within my life, that carried out, and questioning it, observing it, seeing my reaction towards it, having a more open perspective in mind to gain more information on things. I came to understand things more clearly. You know, so the best way that I can explain it is that everything in life, it has energy. It has a spirit, a essence. So a spirit is the way how you sense the essence of something. It's a feeling, right? A sense of feeling all these things throughout your five senses, as well as the sixth sense, which is your intuition. So a lot of times, your spiritual energy can be driven by your intuition, as well as what is known as the divine universal consciousness, that people can tap into as well. Um, but see, it just kind of depends on what you carry within your intuition. Because sometimes, if we carry too much negative baggage with us, we tend to develop like a lot of kind of like a negative mindset over time. And we kind of create our own perspectives on things. And sometimes it's hard to see things clearly, as they really are, and see from like a divine heavenly perspective, when you're looking down at everything as a whole and you see how every small thing has an intricacy and a time, a place, a purpose. Even if it's bad, it's something that has to occur for a lesson, or some type of way of learning or getting a point across, and as well as understanding that within the divine consciousness, there's other pathways and reasons why people have to go through certain life, themes, to gain certain types of understanding. And sometimes we just cross paths with one another. So sometimes we have to look beyond the negative things that we see and kind of take like an aerial view of everything as a whole. And to do that, we kind of have to, bear down our ego and put that aside and learn to see through heaven's eyes, in a way is how it was kind of shown to me throughout the years. I had to learn how to look at my own situations that seemed negative and try to see it with a different perspective. What can I learn from this? And what kind of blessings am I not paying attention to within this, situation? Is it really as bad as it seems, or am I making something more worse than what it really is? So it's kind of like my spirit was starting to sense a lot of the negative things, and it was creating a lot of negative within myself. So this is why I had to kind of do kind of like a upkeep, a check, keep myself in check on, what am I absorbing from everyday life, within my senses, that's kind of leading me to have these types of kind of generated expectations or outcomes, or fearing certain negative outcomes, and kind of creating scenarios in my own head that had not even occurred. So it's kind of like me putting myself through my own suffering and worrying. It's because of what I was taking into myself. So I had to go through a lot of the considerations on what I was absorbing, and I'll be getting into these right here, these points, within internal and external influences. So yeah, but before I get into those things, I want to go over, like I said, the spiritual, things that we sense, their essences. Okay, so what is spiritual? It's the essence. It's the essence of a person, a place, or a thing. Okay, so people, places, and things. Okay, so that's what it means. Spiritual is the essence of, like, the essence is the feeling of a person, place, or thing. Okay, so that thing, it has an energy. Okay, it has a frequency, and the frequency is an energy that is either a positive charge, a negative charge, or it's neutral, meaning like it's not really good or bad, it's just kind of like a middle ground. Okay, so sometimes some people, you'll notice they have a really good energy, and sometimes they're glowing, they just light up the room. You feel good around those type of people. So those people have positive energy. People who come into a room and they kind of make you feel uncomfortable just being in their presence, is sometimes you pick up like tones from their voices or from their body language. Sometimes you just feel things. Sometimes we pick up empathy. So empathy has a lot to do with like the spiritual aspects as well. I'm gonna make another video about empathy later on, but that has a lot to do with spiritual, and I'll get more deeper into that because I'll be talking about empaths, and that will go on to a more broader topic about empaths and like the clairvoyance, clairaudience, all the psychic abilities that people have that are dormant. Okay, but empathy is one of the first starts of it. But you see, like our empathy is how we kind of sense the essence of things, around us, and people and places. So we can kind of determine if they give us a positive or negative feeling, or sometimes if it's just like a flat out, like you don't feel any way about it. It just kind of feels empty, or it just kind of feels dormant, like you don't, there's no expectation from it. It's just what it is. Something that's just existing there, for whatever reason. Um, it serves a purpose, but you're not sure, so it's kind of like that, having a neutral energy, or it can be both, like seems good, but at the same time um it's not something you can fully trust. It's kind of has a bit of a uncertainty. It could go either way, so that can also be neutral. It's kind of like straddling the fence. And so sometimes with this I can get into, I'm not sure if I made a video already on it, but I think there's one about the different types of beings. Light beings are usually positive. People with like a negative aura, like people who are into dark energy and nature, they usually have like a negative aura. So um that, and like neutral would be like the gray area, like people who are gray beings. They're like what I would describe as like soldiers or police officers, those people that sometimes commit crimes in order to benefit the greater good. So those would be considered like, yeah, like soldiers. How soldiers, they go off to war, and killing is, not something that is good, but some people have to fight to save the lives of, children or other people who can't defend themselves. See, so they kind of have to work in that kind of gray area where it's not really fully good and it's not really um bad at the same time. It's just kind of like, they're just there as a driving force to try to carry on life and create certain changes or trigger something, to take place in the lives of other people, lessons or blessings, or um, whatever the cause may be from those situations. So usually gray beings, they're usually the people who undergo a lot of like PTSD, especially those who are like drug addicts, alcoholics, people who suffered from abuse. They witness like a lot of negativity in life, but they're trying their hardest to heal from it. So sometimes they straddle the fence, people who've gone through things like that. So um but yeah, usually like there's people with different types of like aura, energy auras. They have these charges in them. But like I said, there's a video on all of this. You can find it on my page. It goes over them in more detail, and about entities as well, and where they stand within that. It's like a frequency scale, I believe, how I talked about these beings and how they function usually. Um, so yeah, you can look that video up. But yeah, but we, sense these energies from people, with our spirituality, how we sense things. Okay. And religion, okay. Religion and spirituality, we can't have one without the other. They both exist, they both coexist together. And religion, you take the first part of this word religion, re means to do again. To do again or do over, okay? And then you take legion, which is actually legion, and that means to bind or to bond or to connect, okay? So that's what legion means. So put this together. Religion really means, all it means is to connect again, to reconnect. Okay? And see, everybody, we all connect to something. We connect to energy. We connect to our own selves. And we do that through practices every day. Every day, people are connecting to something. They're disconnecting from things as well. Take, for example, a lot of people, with the way how they look at like certain cultures and the way they believe. A belief is a way of connecting to something, that they have faith in. So people believe in a higher power, whether you're Muslim, Native American, Buddhist, Christian, atheist, satanic, doesn't matter who you are, you're connecting to something, some type of belief there that is within your range of consciousness that you're supposed to learn about or understand. Okay? So you're residing on a certain level of consciousness, and these right here, these are certain levels of consciousness as well. These are part of the frequency scale of consciousness. The highs and the lows in the middle. Okay? So our higher consciousness is way up here, with the positivity. Our negative consciousness is down here. And the neutral's like right in the middle here. So when we're connecting to things, through our culture and what we believe in, what we have faith in, the rules that are written, in documents or scripts or what accounts people have had, we study those things, and sometimes we learn by experience. That's through our own consciousness that we develop, and that consciousness can change over time. This is why people change from religion to religion. Some people, they, become atheists, or they stop becoming atheists and they switch to being a Buddhist, or, it's because they're allowing their mind to be open to gain more information. Okay. So it's not to say that one religion is the truth and, the better than everybody. That's not what this is about here. Okay. I'm just telling you guys that religion in its original context just simply means to reconnect to something. What are you connecting to that's giving you this information? Okay. So some people, they connect to, the higher self, the higher power, through their cultural beliefs, So this is where you have like all the cultures, in religion, culture. And that can be, like I said, Buddhism, Christianity, being Muslim, Hindu, doesn't matter. All cultures from all over the world, Aboriginal, So they connect to something. And they do this through certain rituals and practices. A ritual is like a rite, okay? A rite is like a way of passage, learning wisdom or information that allows you to connect to whatever source this is, the source of information. Okay? So everybody takes part in a ritual every day without knowing it. Everybody is religious in some way without knowing it. And I'll give you an example. Okay? What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? Some people, they wake up to an alarm clock. And First thing they do, they get up, they go use the restroom, right? And then they get their clothes ready. They decide, okay, what do I feel like wearing today? How's my day going to go? What am I going to need to do to prepare for this day? You know, should I wear a jacket? Should I wear tennis shoes? You know, am I going to be running around today? What do I need to wear to perform my best within this job that I have? See, so that's preparation. You know, some people, they choose colors, different colors to wear for work. You know, and those colors represent something. They can represent a professionality within their attire, their appearance. You know, some businessmen, they wear black, you know, to show a cleanliness, you know, clean cut edge. You know, some people, they want to feel confident, so they dress to the nine, you know, before they begin an interview. See, so that's a way how to enhance the energy of the body. So they wear clothes that meet a standard that they expect of themselves for the day. What's another thing people do in the morning? They take a shower. Some people cannot function without taking a shower in the morning, because the shower, what does it do? It wakes you up, right? So you're reconnecting to the productive part of yourself. That's a ritual. You're reconnecting. It's a religious practice. You're taking a shower. You're cleansing off the residual from the day before and the tiredness from the work you left yesterday. Now you're starting to prepare for a new day. So you need the new energy to get you through this new day. So you go and cleanse yourself, right? You cleanse yourself in the shower, you get out, you get your new attire on, you feel good, but you're still not quite there yet. You say, you know what, I can't function unless I have my coffee. So a lot of people, they say, don't talk to me, don't talk to me unless I've had my coffee. So some people, they practice this ritual saying, hey, I don't feel like myself unless I got coffee in me. I got to have caffeine. And then you start feeling like yourself. Then you start feeling talkative. You start feeling that adrenaline rush, that your heart rate starts, racing. You start feeling more alive and upbeat and awake now. So you feel like you're more productive self. That's an act of you reconnecting to your higher self that is positive and makes you feel more motivated to succeed throughout your day. See, that would be an example of a way of reconnecting, so that is a religious practice. And some people, they have breakfast too. They eat right in the morning, give some energy. So all those things go into like the spiritual hygiene of your morning, if you think about it. Those jump start your day, get you on the right path, the right mood. And so, with that in mind, as an example, this is all what it means, the understanding these practices that you do every day. It doesn't have to be, just praying before you start your day either, before you go to work, praying for your family, meditating when you wake up, exercising before you head out the door to your job. It can be all of these things or just some of these things that can affect, certain fluctuations in your energy. So sometimes when you feel like your energy being pulled down, you can look at all these other areas, consider these right here. That sometimes mentally, there can be things going on internally with yourself that kind of makes you not feel as motivated. There can be things going on emotionally or physically, in your whole entire being. So whenever you seem to feel like you're in a funk, you got to kind of think about, how it's affecting your day-to-day life. Maybe it could be the way how you're thinking. So mentally, you got to look at your own mindset. Is ask yourself, is your mindset negative or positive? And you can understand this by looking at your outlook on life. Do you usually have kind of do you usually set like expectations for yourself throughout the day? And are those expectations realistic, or are they more of like something that can kind of be a little bit impossible to obtain within one day? So you kind of have to look at it there. Are you setting like more realistic standards for yourself throughout the day that you can actually achieve? Or are you kind of setting the bar too high and not meeting those expectations? And are you kind of, seeing you not meeting those expectations as a failure? So, because sometimes in life things happen and we can't always avoid certain circumstances, and sometimes that can hold us back from completing a job, or doing something correctly. So we have to kind of backtrack, and sometimes it takes longer for us to get the goal or job done, that we want it to be successful at. So it just kind of takes a longer process, but we can still get there. But some people, they don't get there because they set the bar too high and they weren't patient enough to kind of wait and see how things kind of flow through first, trying to build their stamina and try to build their confidence in themselves to keep pushing forward, because every step is progress. So it's kind of like it's your mind, set on a negative outcome or a positive outcome. So you have to make sure you're looking at that and make sure that you're not kind of ruminating over things that have not occurred yet. You kind of got to make sure you're not worrying too much about things that have not happened, or expecting a lot of negative, because sometimes you could be just worrying, for nothing, or sometimes the worry could end up creating negative outcomes. So sometimes the way how you think is what manifests within your life. Because like we're magnets to energy. It's the same way how we react to people, when they're negative towards us, we don't want to be around them. They kind of repel us away from them. See, so that's the same effect. Are we being negative and repelling all the positive influences to come towards us, because we have a negative mindset? It's the same way it works. Okay. And also, you got to think mentally, do others have a negative mindset? Or do they have a positive mindset? And how does that affect us? You know, how does that affect us in our day-to-day life? How do we function around that? Do they usually place their negative opinions on us, and do we take it to heart and feel hurt, by what they say to us? So, we kind of got to look at things like that. Sometimes that can discourage us, or sometimes put a stop to certain blessings try to come into our pathway. So, sometimes we have to take a break from people being negative a lot, so that way we can gain our stamina, gain our composure, you know, um, kind of be in our own positive energy when we're around people like that, because sometimes we can't always avoid people like this. They're everywhere. They're in in job places, they're, in schools, they're out on the street, um, driving around in stores, just people all over. They can be good people just having a bad day too, so we have to do our best not to, judge, jump to conclusions, and be totally with the whole cancel culture, because we got to learn how to kind of, you know, be big boys and big girls about this, and just kind of learn how to grow with it, grow with these things, taking place around us, but don't allow ourselves to, indulge too much in this, what they're doing, what they're creating, because usually people who are within their own negative mindset, they're kind of living their own karma, creating karma for themselves. And if we allow that negativity to influence us, it becomes like a karmic domino effect on us by reacting negative to them, So it's usually negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive, So you kind of want to make sure you're bringing balance to the situation with your positive energy rather than, taking on some of their negative energy into yourself, because that's going to end up creating some fluctuations within your whole own spiritual, self, your grounding, your spiritual grounding. Okay. So everything about spiritual hygiene is coming to know yourself, your own personal spiritual energy. So you got to know your emotions. Okay. Knowing, do you know how you are internally when you're having a good day? So emotionally, how well do you know yourself? This is a good question. How well do you know yourself emotionally? Okay. How do you usually react to things of a negative or positive nature? If something is positive, sometimes there are people that get a little bitter, like, like say for example Valentine's Day, people like, I'm tired of all this love sappiness, and because I don't have a Valentine, and it's just whatever, and so some people kind of get like a little bitter about Valentine's Day because they don't have a Valentine, but like other times there's people who are more like, hey, if people are out there, celebrating Valentine's Day, good for them. I might not have anybody to celebrate with, but I can still show love to everybody else. So that's kind of like a better way of looking at it, because sometimes some people, they tend to kind of like have a little bit of like of a negative mindset towards certain things, you know um towards things that other people like, sure, we don't always all have to agree, on certain things, likes and dislikes, but sometimes when people, they become too negative, like these people who have a, negative opinion or negative mindset about everything or things that you do, and then they speak negative and it kind of puts down your emotions, then you kind of understand like what it's like. You're kind of experiencing or kind of acting out like how they were acting towards you, so you kind of have to understand yourself, how you react to like negative feedback and how you respond, towards it, as well as understand like your own emotions going outward. Are you giving other people emotional support, or are you, emotionally bothered by, what they're into or what they're doing, and are you kind of placing that, negative emotion on other people? So you got to know your emotions really well. When you're more grounded, you're more at peace with yourself. You're at peace with other people, and you kind of have this understanding that others, they're always going to be having their own way, doing their own things, and sometimes you can't make them change their mind. Everybody's got free will, so you kind of just have to accept that, accept that fact of life that, people can choose and decide to be whoever they want to be as well as yourself. But I assure you that people who tend to be negative, the reason why they're negative is because they chose not to be, positive about certain things in life. So, yeah, you can either allow negative things to affect you or create issues about all kind of stuff in life, or you can try to just see things and understand it, and then keep moving along forward as positively and as peacefully as you can, and just try to be of support to people who need it, around you, trying to better themselves. So emotionally, do you have the support from others? So support. Are you emotionally supported? Do you support your own self internally? So whenever you're bothered by negative things, your emotions, are you more caring towards yourself? Do you give yourself time to, have a little bit of peace at home? Do you create a safe space for yourself? Um, do you take time to meditate? Do you take time to rest your mind and stop overthinking certain things, and try to gain clarity? Sometimes you got to rest from overdoing it, overworking your mind and your emotions so much. And just take a break, put it away for a little bit, and come back to it later when you're in a more clear conscious state and you're more stable and more calm. Rather than allowing your emotions and actions to just take over and impulsively act and possibly cause more harm to yourself and others along the way. If you're reacting to things so quickly and irrationally, so you kind of got to slow down a little bit. Make sure you're being of emotional support to yourself. And so also externally, support goes the same way. Do you have anybody externally that is supportive of you in an emotional way? So if people are not supportive of your emotions and how you feel, if they don't acknowledge that, or if they're constantly putting down your emotions, putting it aside as though it doesn't matter, then, they're not allowing you to kind of get those emotions out so you can learn and process them. Sometimes some people, they don't want to hear about all of your emotions because maybe sometimes, people are a little bit too hard-headed, so they're like, why should I listen to you if you're not going to be willing to listen to me? Try to be the voice of reason for you. So sometimes some people, they'll push your emotions aside and just kind of go away, So sometimes you got to be aware of that too, like your emotional state. Are you being fair with your emotions? Um are you allowing people to be supportive of you as well as kind of give a little bit of their own positive perspective, a way of you looking at it? Sometimes the emotions, sometimes there's a lot of ego dwells a lot within the emotions. So you have to kind of question, do others have an ego or do I have an ego? So sometimes those external influences from other people, the way how they view you and your emotions, as well as the way how they are emotional towards you, they can have an effect on, your whole emotional grounding, and how stable you are within your own self emotions, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your outlook in life, and how well you know yourself. Getting your points across and trying to do so in a more constructive way, to be more productive in life and create the life you want to live. as healthy as possible. So, yeah, that's something you can ask yourself. Consider that if you don't have enough like help or support within that, sometimes you need to turn to other people, other outside sources, other friends, or go seek, support groups or counseling sessions who can be more understanding of your emotions. There's a lot of people who can reach us on various levels, out there, who are going through things that we've gone through or had grown through that, and they can be of a great help to us sometimes, to help us learn these emotions. But we have to be willing to put our ego down, in order to understand the emotions, because sometimes these emotions can be so strong, our anger, our frustrations, our sadness, our hate, or being upset, that we don't want to listen to anybody. We just want it validated that we have a right to feel this way. Yeah, we do, but at the same time, what is it going to create in the long run for us? If we're not forming a solution to deal with those emotions, process them out, that way they don't keep coming up and disturbing us. So there's people that can teach us how to do that, but we have to be willing to kind of lay down the sword, stop trying to take every opinion as an attack on ourselves. So that's also a part of spiritual hygiene, is putting our ego in check when it comes to our emotions. Is our emotions rational or irrational? So yeah, you have to ask about it internally. Is are our emotions rational or irrational? And then we can ask the people around us externally, are their emotions also rational or irrational too? And their response towards us and what we're going through, our situation. And so if it is or if it isn't, we can try to work on trying to gain more support from people who do understand our side, but can probably help us learn how to understand ourselves more too as well. Okay. That way we can gain more of like a positive grounding for ourselves, people to bring us back down to earth and say, hey, it's okay to feel this way, but come on, we gotta, come back home to our space, who we truly are, as beings who create our own realities. And the more we try to be angry and frustrated, it's not going to do us any good in the long run. It's just going to create more frustrations, and we got to deal with that. So let's work on it together. So yeah, it takes a lot of mental stamina to approach these, in a nice, good, rational way where you're more calm with yourself. So yeah, it's always good to have a good emotional check. Okay. So physical, this one right here, I'm probably gonna make a second video and go over more. Excuse me. I'm gonna probably go over more about this physical, because with this, there are some things that people ask me a lot about. It pertains to like, okay, you got your physical body. Okay, what you put into your body, like food, it could be food. Are you eating the right food that's, making you feel okay? Some food can get you depressed. Eating too much junk in your body, putting too much junk food in your body, it can kind of bring your energy down. So you want to boost your energy up with food that's more light, that gives you more nutrients, helps your brain function more better, more clearer, because sometimes a lot of the stuff we consume in our bodies is toxic. So, are we putting too much processed food into our bodies, and, is it making us sick? So it comes to terms with that, physical. What are we putting into ourselves, through eating? Physically, what are we seeing every day? So this can deal with like watching too much negativity on TV, negative news, things that you see, um, that can kind of like program your thinking. Um, Sometimes, yeah, too much news can stress you out too. Can stress out the body. What you're seeing every day. Sometimes you can see a lot of people arguing in certain environments, not getting along. So you have to kind of take a break from that. So, and that would be something external, an environment where there's other people involved that are, doing things that are kind of affecting you. So, um, yeah, so those are things that happen outside of the body, but like for your eyes, though, seeing, what are you seeing every day? What are you listening to every day? Are you listening to a lot of people talking negative? Are you listening to a lot of gossip? So this part is physical, deals with like your physical senses, okay? So like the five senses, taste, touch, sight, hearing, smelling, you know, um, yes, smelling is actually like also a clear audience too. You know, there's some people who can like pick up scents of certain things. It's kind of like when you go, say, like you go into like into okay, see, like I help people sometimes in who deal with drug addictions, and I've been around people in homes, people who have have kind of like a rundown environment, and sometimes you can smell outside of their home or within their home when they've been cooking like meth or certain types of drugs. Sometimes that smell, the chemicals, that get you sick. So even that, being around certain smells, it can, kind of trigger certain negative feelings within you. you know so like myself, sometimes like when I'm around people who do drugs, sometimes I can smell it on them, and sometimes it kind of brings back those memories of being around environments with people like that, and it kind of makes me feel nauseous and sick to my stomach. So it's kind of like a trigger. So we have to kind of understand that too, like even our all our senses can be very heightened, and this happens a lot too with people who have PTSD. Things they smell can bring back a memory, things they touch, taste, hear, you know everything. So yeah, it's important to understand these physical senses, and how they affect us internally, our body. When we're triggered, do we get anxiety? Do we feel, or do these things make us feel calm? Certain things like tasting home cooked food, does it make you feel full? Does it make you feel like you're cared for? Like comfort food that your mom made. um Maybe it brings back a memory of like a birthday party you had the best time, or um, maybe seeing a certain color, or a certain cartoon on TV that reminds you of your childhood when you were happy, or smelling a scent of perfume that reminds you of your grandmother, and it brings back like a warm feeling of when she used to embrace you, her hugs she used to give to you, makes you feel warmth and loved. So there's things like that that bring back good memories. So you have to kind of look at that, what is within your environment. um so yeah, the environment right here would be the physical environment. Okay, so Yeah. The environment is like, yeah, like I was saying, like everything with your senses, outside of yourself. Um, what do you see happening around you? It's not exactly happening to you, but it's like around you. What do you sense other people going through around you? See, so like, for example, you could be living at home and maybe somebody at home has a certain type of issue they're going through. Maybe your child, they have their own life at school, and maybe they broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, you didn't know about it, and they're acting out, and suddenly like the environment seems a little bit shaky, like, it's like a sadness in the home, or um you pick up on things like, maybe your child isn't sleeping as much as they used to. They're staying up late. Maybe you even smell like marijuana. Maybe they're up smoking or drinking, because maybe they have depression, or things like that. Little subtle changes, that you kind of pick up on, that you sense in them, or things that don't seem like their usual energy within the environment, their environment that they usually create for themselves. So this is something that, like, a parent would have to address their children, outside of the parent self. They have to address their child, and see what's going on and get down to it, like, what's going on at school? Are you okay? I noticed, your behavior. I noticed you smelled the other day, after you came home from your friend's house. Are you experimenting with drugs? Are you drinking? What are what's going on? you know and kind of set the ground rules about that, and explain to them, like, you're yeah, aware of these things, and you're concerned about their well-being, and you don't want them to follow this path, because there's a lot of things that come up when you take part in certain activities, outside of yourself, influences, so, especially if you're not careful and you're not knowledgeable and things like that. See, so like that is an example. That would be an example. Be something that I could get into too, about like influences. Physical influences like drugs, alcohol, and all that. How to deal with that, and people kind of creating an influence within the environment. You know, because people tend to have like other energies around them, like a spiritual attachment to something, meaning that there's a situation going on around them, or an issue they have within themselves, that they keep going over, they're ruminating over it, and that issue is like it's attached to their essence and their aura, and it's something that they can't seem to shake off. It's always with them. You can feel it, you can sense it, but they're not talking about it, or maybe they don't understand how to they don't understand it themselves, or know how to explain it, or maybe they do want to talk about it, but it's really hard, because some people, they don't want to be judged. So a lot of times people tend to hide their own demons, they hide their own addictions, they hide their own thoughts that they have, and they ruminate over and over again, because people fear, being judged, but once we can get that out on the table and kind of talk about these things, it creates a safe space where people can say, oh, okay, now this is the issue. I see what this is. Now let's see what we can do to work on it and try to overcome this, issue right here. To where it won't become attached to us anymore. We can let it go. We can deal with it and let go of that attachment. So that's part of acknowledging that there's something there, within our spiritual makeup. All these things make up the essence of our spirit, whether our spirit feels healthy or not. So if it's a negative attachment, then usually, it means we have to start doing some spiritual hygiene, some cleanliness, cleaning ourselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, um, and as well as, things within our environment, not just, ourselves. And so, within my next video, I'm going to go over some, more of some like things like within culture too, as well, where people have had some questions, especially primarily around like tribal beliefs, um because I noticed there's some people that are doing certain practices with like native methods of cleansing homes, like smudging, um using like burning incense and everything, to cleanse their homes as well of negative spiritual energy. Like the spiritual energies, the things that sometimes you can't see but they're there, you feel them there, you know um and that falls in line with like certain types of beings, that exist in our world today. And some people had some questions about that and how to go about cleansing your home out, um and how to cleanse yourself physically, uh, especially like with prayer and all of that, kind of getting into a routine of doing that, and what to use, how to use it, when to use it, because a lot of people are noticed they're using sage, to cleanse themselves and their homes, but a lot of us native people, we don't use sage for cleansing, because there's certain properties of sage that is more for attracting, and usually we have to use other certain types of bitter herbs first before using that, so we don't use sage. um and there's a lot that comes with it, some of the esoteric wisdom, behind that. And so I know some people wanted me to kind of go over that, how to go about, you know not just cleansing of your mind, or going over like kind of like going over a check, a self check of how you're doing within your mental, emotional, physical state, but also like how to determine if maybe if it's something, maybe not from a person, but like an actual um other type of metaphysical occurrence, I guess, so to speak, that might be affecting like your outcome or your energy level, or things within your home, or even other people around you, you know so yeah, I have some knowledge and wisdom and some things, things that I can share with you guys about that, my experiences and what I've come across, throughout stuff within my own path, of sobriety, things that I've seen with my own two eyes, and other people had witnessed around me, who had gone through the same things as well. So, we're all learning about these things together. It kind of just I guess learning how to express, what this is, and explain it in a way so others can understand it. Because a lot of it too, there's a great science behind it. It's because we're all energy. It's all physics. We're all energy, and that's mainly how we run. We run off of electrical charges every single day. The positive and negative charges. You know, um, and so that generates our energy, and our energy, determines the flow of our life. The frequencies and how we're able to function within it. So yeah, so that I'm gonna go over that more within the next video, I believe. So that will cover like some things, like cultural practices, and um, what some people sometimes use, and everything. So yeah, I might share a few tips with some people on here, um, that I've learned, and that usually helps, um, especially for those, going through sobriety. Because like within like the red road, through our tribal practices of sobriety, it takes more than just addressing things mentally and emotionally and physically, but also like on another level. Sometimes there's things, attachments around us, that we learned about, and we have that's why sometimes like some of our tribes, they do sweat lodge, to kind of detox the body, of toxins. And sometimes they do certain like blessing ceremonies, prayer, support groups, to help one another, support each other, and everything like that. So it gets pretty deep, with the sharing the energy of good creativity and trying to create a good life, for ourselves and one another, and kind of leaning on each other as support. And making sure, we're keeping up our own spiritual hygiene as we're going through, our walk of life. And learning how to maintain our stamina, because no matter what you're going through in life, it's going to be hard to try to, cut off all negativity. It's impossible to do that. We're supposed to share this life with all kinds of beings and learn about everything. We have to learn how to, function among it. And if we keep putting it aside, trying to avoid it, it's going to keep hitting us harder and harder, and it's going to get harder for us to understand. It's going to get harder for us to try to accept that this is just the way how this thing is. But we need to work on ourselves and how we can maintain ourselves while being around these types of environments and people and things that are going to come and go. All we can work on is trying to be consistent within our own energy, that we're trying to create. Because, that positive energy is what brings balance to life. So, that's what I have to bring to you today. And yeah, with everything said here, once again, this is just off the top of my head. I didn't have anything planned for this really. I just, it's just all kind of channel. It comes from the heart, comes from, divine spirit, that guides my words. Because this is something that's very important for people to understand and know about. It doesn't have anything to do with, who's got the right religion, right way of life, I mean, not right religion, but the right culture, cultural affiliation or whatnot. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just about how are we connecting, religion? How are we reconnecting to ourselves? How are we reconnecting to others? What are we reconnecting to? Is it positive or negative? Are we reconnecting to our higher self that can give us this wisdom, to know these things? Or are we being ignorant of our higher self? Are we not being willing to listen so we can gain this wisdom and knowledge to pass it down to, our youth, our people, so that way they can understand that there's a way how to try to, learn how to function and gain your strength within life and maintain your spiritual hygiene while you're going through a lot of things. Because after all we've been throughout all these years, a lot of people, they're not aware of spiritual hygiene. That's why a lot of people went crazy, when dealing with all these negative things in the world, chaos and all of that. They weren't thinking about how all these things can affect them. and what they can create, So it's very important that we all have some type of teacher, somebody there to teach us about these things. I'm always a student first and foremost. And that's usually how you know who is a good teacher too. Your teachers are people who will constantly be willing to learn new things and teach you more. A teacher will be willing to, put down their ego so they can be taught something new, and be able to change their mind sometimes when they have known that maybe they had gotten something wrong, or maybe they develop more information, so they're expanding more on, this information. Because that's all it does. It just keeps expanding. You're not limited to one understanding. You know all these ways of life. You have an idea of all of it and how it works. So for myself, what I see is that everybody has certain levels of understanding, certain levels of frequencies, consciousness. And some people, they're conscious of only certain things and they don't want to be conscious of other stuff. Some people want to fight over like their way as being the right way while condemning another way, So they're stuck in this frame of consciousness because they refuse to be open, to accepting another person's way as, being their own path, being their own truth. So sometimes that's kind of like the ego, like not being willing to allow people to kind of be on their own path and learn, at their own pace, or but we're all just kind of just all here together to gain this knowledge and this wisdom from each other. And there's not enough people willing to sit down and talk amongst each other in a more civil way. So it's like that's what created a lot of all the I guess like the negative, there's kind of like a negative connotation behind the word religion now. Because religion, once people see that, they're like, oh, that's bad. I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. But like I said, you know, the original context of religion just means to reconnect to something. Could be to reconnect to a person, place, or thing, or a higher power. But it's all a matter of what are you connecting to, though. Is it good, something that makes you feel good, or is it something negative? Is it something that stands in truth, or is it something deceptive? And there's ways to go about understanding that, and sometimes some passages within various cultures, they'll teach you that, if you're willing just to kind of read through it and just kind of meditate on it and try to understand, their perspective of what they, these people learned, and observed. Um, yeah, true, there's propaganda in some scripts and documents, and I've come to know that as well. Intuitively, I know which ones are, you know, questionable. So, but it doesn't really matter now. It's just more of like what are we creating today though? Because time changes, life changes, and today are we being supportive of each other in a more healthy way, or are we still trying to tear each other apart and create more of a divide? Or where are we coming to as a people? And it's kind of like asking yourself, what am I making of myself today? And so that's when you have to question, what is my spiritual hygiene? How well am I taking care of myself? you know so that's very important. How well am I taking care of myself spiritually, and Am I allowing people to come through and teach me things? Am I trying to gain the wisdom to learn these things, to better understand life and the world around me? Because, back then, we had people, our mothers, our fathers, our elders, everybody teaching us this stuff. But for some reason, there's seems to be this disconnect between the youth and the parent, the youth and the elder. Now we don't have people willing to sit down and discuss these things anymore. Everybody's into doing their own stuff. Everybody's into, a lot of the things of what's going on out in the world, and it's kind of difficult for some of these people to understand what it is, that they're really seeing and what they're going through, because it's difficult to find people who understand where they're coming from and, be able to open up about it and put all this, information on the table and make it available. And so this is what I've been doing throughout the years, is trying to create this, platform to just to spread a little bit more consciousness of, what I've learned. Um it's not something anybody has to follow. It's just information. It's all I have is information here. So if it's helpful to you, then by all means, use it. If it's good for you, use it. You know, um I encourage you to, try to aspire to be the person that you see yourself becoming. You see great change for yourself. You're going to do the work to try to get yourself there and make the changes necessary, in your attitude, in your energy level, and, how you're affected by things around you. Instead of trying to avoid it, you won't walk away from it. You'll approach it, with a more mature mindset and more rationality to be able to deal with it. And after a while, once you deal with it, it's not hard. It just becomes a part of everyday life and routine. So and then things get easier. It gets a lot easier from there. And I can tell you from experience, so yeah. And it does feel liberating. It truly does. So, but yeah, I'll go ahead and create that video for you guys. I'll be back. Yeah, whenever I get a chance to do it again. So, yeah, you guys all take care. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Love one another. And yeah, I hope to see you guys soon. All right. Good peace.